What's up, guys? This is part 2 of the Quizlet review just for you. If you didn't see the first video, I'd recommend checking it out. I'm basically just giving a couple quick notes on some of these terms. This is the Romeo and Juliet terms to know list, and I'll keep going from where the last one cut off. So the last video cut off, I was talking about soliloquies, and a soliloquy is basically a way that we can get insights into a character's head. So when you're watching a play, you can't know exactly what's going on in somebody's head if they're just standing in front of you. But what happens in theater is a character will basically say their inner feelings. And even if there's other characters on the stage, if they're sort of back doing their own thing or not looking at the main character, whoever's speaking, you basically have to just assume that they're speaking to themselves. Obviously, it's a lot easier to see when it's acted out in front of you. When you're reading the text, sometimes you might need to look for some clues to know that this is them talking to themselves. A monologue sometimes looks confusing, not confusing, but it could be confused with a soliloquy. The difference is a monologue is just a long speech. So a monologue, other characters hear it. You know, it might be a parent talking at length to their kid or a kid talking at length to their parent, whatever it may be. If you look at the words soliloquy and monologue, you might recognize solo or mono, which both mean one. So at any rate, both of these words mean it's one person speaking at length. A couplet is basically just two lines that rhyme. We'll look at those more when we talk about sonnets in another video. An aside is when a character is speaking sort of to the side to another character, but the other characters on the stage don't hear it. So that would be if like one character tells somebody else a secret, but somebody else is on the stage. We as the audience just have to understand that the other characters are not hearing that. Juxtaposition is a word I love. It is basically just placing two things side by side. So that would be like if you were watching a movie and something really happy happens, and then in the next scene, something horrifically tragic happens. There are multiple times where happy scenes are juxtaposed with funny scenes. And sometimes that's happened to create a contrast, maybe to create drama. And we'll see and talk about examples of that. Irony, there's a bunch of different types of irony here. Sometimes there's verbal, sometimes dramatic, sometimes situational irony. There are some very strong examples of dramatic irony in this story where we, the audience, know something that some of the main characters don't. One of the big things is we will know throughout the play that Romeo and Juliet have a relationship, but their parents tragically are not going to know about that, and that's going to cause a lot of problems. Verbal irony is what it sounds like. It's basically when somebody says something, but they mean the opposite of what they said. And wordplay and puns fall into this category of verbal irony. And situational irony is basically when a situation is sort of the opposite of what you would expect, or it has the opposite consequence. One early example of situational irony is Romeo ends up going to a party at Juliet's house, but he's going there to find a different girl. That's something a lot of kids don't know if they haven't read Romeo and Juliet before. And he goes there looking for this other girl, Rosaline, and ends up seeing Juliet, and he really quickly forgets about Rosaline. Very situationally ironic, though, because he was acting as though he'd never have he would never be in love with somebody the way he was with Rosaline, and he really quickly gets over her. Typical teenager. Anyway, a foil, we've talked about these in class depending on where we're at in the year, but a foil, they're characters who contrast each other, and by looking at their differences, we basically see a heightened characteristic. So you see like Scar and Mufasa from The Lion King. One is so inherently good in Mufasa, and one is so inherently just maniacal and manipulative, and that's Scar. They're foils because one is a great leader and one is just not a great leader. Personification is, I think, something you guys know. We'll see examples of that in Romeo and Juliet. There's a character called the nurse in Romeo and Juliet. She is Juliet's nurse. She offers lots of comic relief. We'll see examples of foreshadowing. We'll learn in another video about sonnets, iambic pentameter, and blank verse. With visual delivery and vocal delivery, what these mean are, visually sometimes characters might be hanging their head, and that helps us know that they're sad. But vocally, if there's passion in their voice and they're really upset, we might know they're sad. I'm running out of time again. I think the rest of these words are self-explanatory. See ya.